You're listening to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, the show that proves no one stumbles upon success ever. With your host, Lou Need. Every Mondays and Thursdays, we deliver cold hard evidence behind the power of a robust morning routine. Get ready to be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lunid, and today I am super excited to have our next guest. I'm really thrilled because of the work that he has been doing in transforming experts into powerful beings and top performers. His name is Kanae, CEO of Inspiring, a transformation expert for high performance. As I said, he helps entrepreneurs overcome fear, imposter syndrome, and that's a big one in our field, right? And self-sabotage. And if we can get rid of that, if we can get just the 1% on how to deal with that, I think we could accelerate our growth, triple our growth. So after building a $100 million company and scaling it to $1 million a month, in just 4 months, he left to focus on rewiring leaders. His integrative neural conditioning, which we'll talk about in depth later, blends neuroscience, axiology, and embodied learning for lasting breakthroughs. I'm excited for this conversation. I cannot tell you how much I have been looking forward to this. So with no further ado, Keala, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yes, it's absolutely my pleasure. We love a hero's journey here. So go ahead and tell us about how you got started. I mean, from the success that you were having, building this company to $1 million a month and in such a short time frame, and then transitioning over to what you do now.
Yeah, I mean, we built the company, so we went from 0 to $1 million a month in 4 months. For clarity, we got it up to about $3 to $4 million a month at scale before we exited. But, as you mentioned briefly, right? Like today we work with entrepreneurs or high achievers. We say high achievers, meaning people who have like big goals, big dreams, big ambitions, and we help them overcome kind of the mental head trash that gets between us and our goals, dreams.
Yeah.
Things like procrastination, self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, and this sort of thing. And we guarantee our results. And obviously, I didn't start there. So I got my start in this world back in 2009. I had come home from a barbecue with some friends of mine, and I walked into at the time I was living with some roommates, and I walked into my bedroom. It's late at night, maybe 11, 12 o'clock at night, walking to the bedroom, and laying on top of the bed was a stack of photographs. And I was like, what is that? Where did that come from? So I walk up, I pick up the stack of photographs. It's a bunch of photos that are ripped in half. And I'm kind of sifting through this, like wondering what happened here. And at the bottom of the stack of photographs was a note that said, "Picture me out of your life." And my girlfriend of 4.5 years that was her way of breaking up with me. Pretty savage way to break up with somebody, especially after 4.5 years.
It's poetic.
And I thought, we'll get back together. We'll figure it out. Like clearly she's upset. We'll chat. We'll smooth this over kind of a thing. Well, fast forward about 2 or 3 weeks later, I had moved out of the place with my roommates because I couldn't afford the rent. I moved back in with my mom, and she has not answered a phone call, a text message, an email, nothing. I am ghosted, right? In today's terms, I am left on red.
You're canceled.
And, yes. And I can remember this moment, like I'm pacing up and down the hallway in my mom's little, like 1,000 square foot apartment. I'm kind of going through the mental inventory of everything in my life that's coming up short, everywhere that, I'm just not happy, not fulfilled, not getting the results I want. I'm devastated by this breakup. And there's this moment where, it hits me. I can remember what I was wearing. I could take you to exactly the spot where I was standing. And the question that came to mind was, what if it's me? So in other words, like, what if it's not my boss, the coworkers, my economy, my upline, my downline, the marketplace, my upbringing, my parents, my family, my significant other? What if it's me? Yeah. I'm the only common denominator in all of these places where I'm dissatisfied. I'm the only common denominator that probably says something. And that question changed my life. I mean, I reached out to a friend of mine after that. He had been telling me about this seminar that he had attended. His life had taken a massive shift in a new direction. It was obvious to all of us in our friends group. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, like this class that you keep telling me about, can you, like, this is what I'm going through right now. Do you think that'd be a good fit? And he's like, I'm really excited for the journey that you're about to go down. And that's when I went to a class back then that's similar to a class that we now provide called Genesis. And that experience changed the trajectory of my life. Like, that's where I woke up to myself, and it inspired a fascination for me in psychology, neuroscience, like how we change, how our reality is, how our external world is a reflection of our internal world, and that changing our external results is an internal job, many times and most often. And so I became fascinated by that. And so initially I started learning all this material, applying it to my life. I built a $140 million company, like you mentioned, exited that last year, and went back to the thing that I love most, which is, helping people wake up to their true potential, just like somebody offered me back in 2009.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. You said one thing that struck out to me is you woke up to yourself. And it sounds like when that happened, that's when you got rid of all the clutter, all the gunk, we're going to dive into what that looks like for you. And you were able to build this $104 million business that you probably your old self could not even fathom to even consider.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. I mean, I used to think I was a failed entrepreneur. I had failed as an entrepreneur for 9 years prior to that, right? And it's not like this was like some overnight thing, but I had started my first business in 2000. Now we're in 2009.
Yeah.
And I've been failing miserably for quite some time, almost a decade at this point. And, for me, I thought, man, if I could just get to $10,000 a month, like if I could just not have to look at the cost of every item on the menu, if I could go to the movie, my girlfriend and I, we ended up getting back together, and we've been together 20 years now. But, at the time when we would go to the movies, I would buy a general admission ticket and then a child's ticket and hide the child's ticket under the general admission ticket so that we could afford to get into the movie,
Yeah.
I mean, and I was like, if I could just afford to pay for 2 general admission tickets, that would be life-changing, And, now today, like what used to be a $10,000 a month would be a big goal. Today, like a $10,000 day is a bad day. So yeah, these are worlds apart, and I'll tell people in our classes at times, like, I wasn't born this man. I definitely wasn't raised this man. And my mom will say the same. And my mom, and I are very close. She's gone through a lot of the work that I've gone through as well, changed her life. And she'll say, like, that's not the young man that I raised, but I made this man, I rebuilt it from the ground up.
Yeah. So when you said coming back to yourself, elaborate on that, what it means, because my brain is going to enlightenment. My brain is going to stop bending in yourself. My brain is going to, you're no longer shrinking, for others. Let's talk about that. Let's unpack that.
Yeah. So, in cognitive psychology, it's called schemas. In our curriculum, we call it programs. And the long and the short of it is, from about 0 to 7 years old, we know that a child's brain operates at theta, which is, similar to essentially the same as hypnosis.
Absorb, sponges.
Exactly. And that's exactly why we say that children they're like a sponge. They learn very quickly, right? Well, because there's a perfect balance in the universe and everything has an equal opposite, that's the benefit, is that they learn very quickly as a result of that, because there's no firewall. The drawback is that there's no firewall. So kind of everything gets in, and they're not rationalizing the world around them. So, as an example for me, like when my parents split up, I couldn't rationalize that my mom and dad were better off apart. Like, they didn't have good communication. They didn't, keep romance in a relationship. Like, suddenly dad just wasn't around as often. Yeah. And if dad's not around, then maybe he doesn't love me.
It's my fault.
If my own dad doesn't love me, maybe I'm not lovable, And so we create these schemas, or in our classes, we call them programs. And this is the brain, as an adaptation tool, must create shortcuts to help us process the world around us and protect us. And so we create these programs or schemas to help us adapt to the world around us and survive. But in our adult life, those same things that helped us survive childhood and early adolescence often keep us stuck, repeating the same patterns over and over again. So to say it differently, it's as if a 7 or 8-year-old child is in the driver's seat of your car and you're wondering why the vehicle's not getting to the place that you'd like,
Yeah.
And it's why when we get triggered, we act like a child, because we revert back to those old schemas and programs.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say waking up to myself, what I'm saying is, pulling back the layers of illusion that keep us from our, authentic self. And so like in our curriculum, we share with our clients that like ultimately we're a leadership training company. And when we talk about leadership, what we mean is authentic leadership. And so our belief is that every human being has a calling and leaders have the courage to answer. And so this means then that there's, really two parts. What is my calling? Who am I? Why am I here? What am I here to do? What's going to be the most fulfilling? What's going to be the most aligned? What's going to be most purposeful and, soul oriented for me? But then also beyond that, having the courage to answer that, because oftentimes that is in conflict with what society, the media, institutions, education, friends, family, what the voices on the outside tell us that it might mean to be successful or enlightened or worthy. And so how do we listen to the voice on the inside and drown while we're drowning, by inundation from voices on the outside?
Yeah. If it's right, it can't be right on the outside if it's not right within. If it's not right in the inside, right? And that's the deep work that you're doing. And it ties in very nicely with imposter syndrome. So what are the misconceptions that people have about it? What is it that they cannot seem to fathom or understand about the imposter syndrome that is relentless in keeping them stuck?
Okay, beautiful question. 2 parts to this that I'll share. So this first part that I'll share is it's a combination of axiology, which is the study of values, teleology, the study of purpose, and some basic neuroscience, right? So through the lens of axiology, we can observe that every human being has a set of values that governs our life. Now, oftentimes people will hear the word values and they'll think of things like, honesty, integrity, fairness, justice, equality. And those things are important. I'm not disregarding those things. I'm just, for clarity, though, what I'm saying is like those are social ideals. Those are ideals about how we should live as a society. When I am using the term values from an axiological perspective, what I'm saying is that every day that you and I wake up, there are the things that we value most in our life down to the things that we value so little. They don't even cross our mind, right? And our life will be a direct demonstration of that value system. It's just largely unconscious for most people. I mean, I've had thousands and thousands of people go through our classes now. Yeah. Almost nobody. I don't think I've ever met anyone that I can recall who was clear about what their actual values were the very first time that they came across, these exercises with us. Now, the reason that this is important is because our values, they determine how we filter the world. They determine who we like and who we dislike, what news we listen to, who we vote for. It really is the filter through which we experience life. We don't experience life the way that it is. We experience it the way that we are. Now, our values, when it comes to achievement, our values will also dictate how we manage our resources. Our primary resources are time, energy, and money. However we spend our time, energy, and money, will become our destiny. And so every day you and I wake up, we're going to have a finite amount of time, finite amount of energy, and a finite amount of money. And we're going to invest it in direct proportion to our values. So the things that we value most will automatically get time, energy, and money. Then the next thing, then the next thing, then the next. But eventually we're going to run out of those resources before we run out of a to-do list. And oftentimes our goals, like getting in shape, starting that business, making those sales calls, oftentimes our goals will be in conflict with the things that our conscious goals can be in conflict with our unconscious values. Our unconscious values will naturally get our resources. If our goals are in conflict with our values, we struggle to invest enough resource to make those goals come to life. The things that we value in our life, when we are pursuing the things that we value, we have diligence, fortitude, follow through, clarity, certainty, confidence, poise, precision, power, fulfillment, alignment. We have stress, but we experience it as eustress being the positive form of stress, right? Like this kind of stress that grows a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
When we are pursuing goals that are in conflict with our values, we will experience the opposite. We lack fulfillment. We question ourselves. We have a hard time seeing far into the future. We have a hard time making time for things. We tend to give up.
Burnout.
So when we are pursuing goals that are in conflict with our values, some of the common symptoms that most people will share is things like procrastination, hesitation, self-sabotage, imposter syndrome. And so for me, imposter syndrome or self-sabotage or procrastination, those are not problems. Those are not negative things. They are a clue that we are out of alignment with what is internally most valuable to us. And at that point, we have really two options, right? We can then change our goals. We can abandon our goals and say, like, well, I'm going to pursue my values instead. Or we can, and this is what most often we take our clients through, we can take you through a process to align our goals and our values. And when our goals and our values are aligned, we operate from inspiration, meaning from the spirit within. When we're out of alignment, we require motivation. We need an external force to keep us accountable to do the thing. And motivation never lasts. It doesn't stand the test of time.
It's
right?
like taking a shower. It doesn't.
Yeah, right. That's the Zig Ziglar quote. It's like taking a bath, and that's why you have to do it daily. But the reality is, like, if you look at, somebody like a Jeff Bezos as an example, he doesn't need an accountability partner to wake him up every morning and tell him, Jeffy, quit hitting the snooze button, Jeff. You said you were going to build the everything store. He's called from within to go do that.
Yeah.
Right. And for all of us, if we're willing to look and see, we can find some area in our life where we are called from within to go do the thing, where we need no external motivation, no accountability. We don't even need to put it in our calendar. Like a mom who is dedicated to the growth and well-being of her children does not need to put in her calendar that they have soccer practice on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. She will make the time for that. However, if she also has the goal of, like, I really want to start this business, I want to be financially independent. And in her, unconscious mind, that is in conflict with her values. She will consistently struggle to invest time, energy, and money there because it will automatically go to the thing she values more, which is her children and their well-being in that example. And so authenticity, by our definition, is that we live true to our values, which some might even call the window into the soul, right? Because when we live by our highest values, we are fulfilled. So fulfillment means filling full our values.
And as you speak, the word that comes to mind is embodiment. Because once you embody it, once you've embodied the soul, mind, spirit, where it becomes who you are. So you're speaking out of that truth of who you are, then you don't need the habits. You don't need the motivation, because then that's how you start magnetizing and attracting the things into your life, right?
Absolutely.
That's how you like, I don't want to oversimplify it, but you broke it down so neatly, so effectively that people can actually grasp and understand that when you say we procrastinate, you're going deep into why that begins. It starts with the values, as you say, and being able to embody that. It becomes who you are.
Mm-hmm. As a further point too, for clarity, like I wanted to clarify that, like, those things, procrastination, self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, I think there's a lot of rhetoric in the industry that, like, one day you'll be healed and cured of these things. Like, no, those are human experience. Like, we are neurologically, biologically, physiologically designed to have those experiences because they are a wake-up mechanism. They are helping to make the unconscious conscious. So I hope I never get rid of those things. I'm just learning to use them as a tool. And so imposter syndrome for me, like, recently when I made the transition, I sold my previous company, moved over to Inspirion, became the CEO here, focused on turning this into another 9-figure plus company. And this is really something I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, I don't want to sell this business. I went through my own version, imposter syndrome, and making that transition. Can I do this? I've never sold to this customer avatar before. Like, what's going to be our customer acquisition strategy? Can we scale this? How scalable is it? Yeah, like all these different things going through my mind. And it's also, I think, healthy when used properly, because it informs me, one, that I'm not some narcissistic jerk, right? I haven't conflated my own ego into thinking that I can do anything that I'm not saying that we cannot do anything that we set our mind to, but there's a difference between being narcissistic, altruistic, and what I would call fair exchange, which means that I'm coming from a place of center. Mm-hmm. I'm clear about the upsides and the downsides of the journey that I'm on. And so when we experience imposter syndrome and we're doing something that we've never done before that we find scary, it's a good sign that, like, we're not some narcissist. We have a healthy sense of reality. And my point is that we don't let it stop us, mm-hmm. right? That it becomes a tool rather than, a breaking point. And so often what happens is people experience it and quit versus experience it and recognizing how to use it.
Yeah. And on the topic of narcissism, I actually wrote my dissertation on it. There's a healthy dose of narcissism that we need, to tenacity. You're smiling, but it's true, right? Like, you agree.
100% it's true. Not everybody is willing to say it. So I didn't know that you had written a dissertation on this. But yes, I think there's a healthy dose of narcissism, a healthy dose of altruism. And if we're stuck on too far one end of the spectrum for too long on either end, it becomes unhealthy, yes. Right? We're taking from other people, giving nothing in return, or we're giving away to other people, accepting nothing in return. Both are unhealthy in the long run. Yeah. Right. So I love that you know that, because not so many people know that. Like, they think of it like some evil thing, but in reality, everything has both a benefit and a drawback.
Yeah.
But anyway, you were saying.
I like to say, if you don't toot your own horn, who else is going to do it? So when you're coming from a place, you said being grounded and being centered, and that's what you mean. And I understood it clearly, because you're coming from that place where you know yourself so much. You're being honest with yourself. You're being honest with who you are, and everything you touch turns to gold because of that. And that's mm-hmm. the power. And I think in your neural conditioning, integrative neural conditioning, that a lot of people get to see fantastic results is utilizing that integrative aspect of it, but like reprogramming and reconditioning that to come from this place of being grounded and centered. So tell us a little bit more about the neural conditioning integratively put together.
Yeah, so integrative neural conditioning is a term that we coined for the process that we take our clients through. So, a good sector of, the marketplace works through teaching information.
Yeah.
Right. Like, most of what we're going to experience in this podcast is an exchange of information. Somebody listening can get a lot of information. Information is abundant. It's a commodity. It's everywhere. I mean, we've never lived in a world that's more full of information, right? Not to take away, not saying that it's not important, just saying that if it were the thing that changed things, then librarians would run the world, mm-hmm. So what we're really focused on is a transformation. And the way that we create a transformation with our clients is through experiential learning. So we will both teach them a topic and a concept, but then we also take them through a series of exercises wherein they experience those concepts in real time. Mm-hmm. And by experiencing the concept, as an example, then one, it's no longer a lecture. It's no longer, pen and paper on notepad.
Yeah.
Now it's a fully embodied experience. And because the brain is an adaptation tool, right? So it's a survival mechanism. It means that the higher the stakes, the faster we adapt.
Yeah.
The greater the neuroplasticity, the more malleable the brain, the greater that we can deconstruct and reconstruct or remyelinate the neural pathways of the brain and create lasting change. So I'll give you an example. At one of our advanced classes in person, we have an exercise called the edge. And so in this particular exercise, we're working on changing the relationship with fear. And so we'll take a client to a platform. It's about 60 feet in the air. On that platform, that we have experts up there. We have a whole team up there. Everything is very safe and like, very structured.
Mm-hmm.
That person will they'll strap into a harness that, imagine like where you would wear your belt buckle. And on the exact opposite side of that, is a buckle on your backside, and you are hooked in. You're 60 feet in the air. You look down, and if you were to fall, I mean, realistically, that's going to be painful. And then they're slowly encouraged to lean out until such point that they're almost parallel with the platform that they're on. Right now, again, because the brain is an adaptation survival tool, the conversation that we have with them leading up to that, the conversation that they're having on that platform, the self-talk that we're taking, that we are creating for them in all of that facilitation, they are rewiring in that moment their relationship with fear, right? Not that fear is not present. It's absolutely present. But can they move forward in the face of its presence? That's what we are, conditioning them to become accustomed to. And oftentimes we'll hear our clients say later, when they're going through something in their business or they're going through something in their career that was, scary, I just had to lean out. And they're referring to that exercise. So it becomes this moment in time, right, that they can reference to and find a level of courage that previously didn't exist. That's what we call integrative neural conditioning. It's not a lecture. It's not note taking. It becomes a way of life. It becomes the way that your brain is designed to approach the obstacles that we face in life, such that what once stopped you now fuels you.
You are changing the brain in real time.
In real time, yes.
That's amazing. It's phenomenal. And it will stay. Not only you have bias,
Yes.
but you are literally changing neurons. That are different neurons are being firing and being patterns are being recreated. It's like unheard of.
Exactly that. That's why we have clients like this. I've transitioned to CEO of this company, and that's new, but we've been doing these classes for 8 years.
Yeah.
And so I have customers today that, they did the class 8 years ago, and they still share with us, that they still reference those experiences in their life now, because to your point, it stays, it's permanent. This is not, it's not like a motivational seminar where you're standing on a chair and beating your chest and then pulling into the driveway on Wednesday and forgot what the whole thing was, like this is, you show up differently every day of your life as a result.
Yeah. The person that walked into the doors to your seminar, they're not the same people that walks out into that goes back into their life. They're going to see dramatic differences. And I've seen that happen within my own life. How long is the seminars? How long is the program for individuals who are thinking, wow, this is fantastic?
So our introductory class is a 3-day virtual class. Our entire curriculum, if you were to take our flagship classes, it's 19 days of your life total. Again, results are 100% guaranteed. And we offer a double your money back guarantee on our curriculum. So in other words, if you're not absolutely blown away, you don't walk away going like, I 100% see like this has changed my life, then we will pay you back double what you paid. And so, yeah, it's a 19-day curriculum, and our clients will swear by it. And then when you think about 19 days out of your entire life, to make every day going forward after that more remarkable and more authentic,
yeah.
I mean, 19 days, I think, is a small price to ask. I could be biased, though.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. It's the beginning of the rest of your life, because I honestly believe in that. And I know what you're talking about, the alignment and the transformation that comes with it. It's real. I read a book, I think it was Marshall Goodwin, that said, what got you here won't get you there. And essentially it's those skill sets, it's the trauma, whatever it is, whatever got you here, it won't be enough to take you to the next level. And you actually have something where you coin and says, being stuck at the next level. So let's talk about that, because for people who are listening or thinking, okay, I made it to the next level. I want to get to the next level, but I'm still stuck. I cannot somehow, it's like I'm monkey barring, I'm holding on, but still cannot fully release. Let's talk about that. What's some things that they can do to help?
Yeah. So in our advanced classes, we'll take people through, a 2-day we have a whole piece that we do for 2 days. I bring in another external team, and we walk people through the science of some of what we're talking about. And we really kind of decode the universe in some ways. I mean, like start seeing the code of the matrix. But one way in which we often, trap ourselves, we call this like the difference between evolution and revolution. Many times we can get caught up in revolutions, meaning it seems like we learn the same lesson over and over and over again. We date the same person, different name, different face, same outcome, right? We have a different business partner, different name, different face, similar outcome, sort of a thing. And without, again, it's 2 days of curriculum just on these topics, right? So without going too far down the rabbit hole on the science, what we can observe is that whatever we resent, we will attract, create, or become. And so we keep learning this kind of same lesson over and over again until we can, and the way that we talk about it in our classes is until we can balance our perception, until we can see both sides. So let's zoom out for a little bit. Equanimity would be like the language of the universe, right? So through physics, we would say that like any closed system has equilibrium, equanimity, homeostasis. So eventually there's a balance. The universe would be a closed system, as an example. And so that means that for every benefit, there must be a drawback. For every drawback, there must be a benefit. So everything has both sides.
Yeah.
In our minds, in our psyche, when we label something as good, what it means is we are aware, we're conscious of the benefits, but unconscious of the drawbacks. On the other side of that, if we label something as bad, it means we're conscious of the drawbacks, unconscious of the benefits. And so when we get we can create these traps for ourselves wherein when we cannot see both sides, we will end up recreating the same result over and over. Here's a perfect example. In 2018, I was going through a partnership breakup. And so my partner and I, and at this point, the company was doing 20 million a year. So this was not like hey, let's shake hands and part ways. Like this was becoming a legal battle, and we were having one of these classes, and the facilitator that I had brought in for this class, her and I had been chatting prior, and she was like, do the exercise with the students tomorrow. So I was sitting down doing the exercise, and I'm starting with my business partner, and I'm first looking at like all the resentments that I'm having towards him, right? Law of reflection is essentially that everything that we see is a reflection of ourselves. So in the first stage, I'm taking ownership of all of the characteristics or traits that I'm judging about him. I'm asking myself, where have I expressed those characteristics and traits? So this goes back to law of conservation of energy. Nothing is created or destroyed. It only transforms. At a macro level, that's true across the universe. At a micro level, what it means is everything that can exist in a human being does exist in a human being, just in a different form. So whatever I judge about him, I'm disowning about myself. So I'm kind of going through this exercise and I'm taking this inventory of like my judgments of him. And as I'm doing that, I realize this is my dad. These are the same judgments I have about my dad, but like from when my parents split up and divorced. And so in that exercise, I realize that and I say, okay, because I'm judging my business partner, for clarity, he was on vacation 8 months out of the year. For 4 months out of the year, he was present. All he did was create chaos in the business. He wanted to be a 50% owner, but not have 50% of the, obviously not 50% of the responsibilities or obligations or even the financial risk. And so it was just no longer a fair and equitable, relationship. And so I was resentful of the fact that he was not present in the business. In other words, he was an absentee father, an absentee parent to the business. Can you see the correlation between like what I might be judging my dad as an earlier version of that?
Yeah. And you attracted him. You pulled him right in.
Exactly. Right. And I'll come to that. So I take a step back and I start looking at this through the lens of my relationship with my dad and like when my parents split. And as I kind of unravel that, my my parents split. My dad wasn't around. And I remember being a kid, my parents, we kind of very quickly, without going too far down the rabbit hole, we had gone from like a 2-parent household to almost like a no-parent household. So my mom was taking care of her father, who was also sick with cancer and passed away a few years later. And so I remember feeling like nobody cares what I have to say. Nobody's like, I don't have a voice. No one's listening. I'm like calling out for help in like the ways that a child thinks to do, but nobody was there. At this point, 12 when they split. Mm-hmm. And so when I looked at that, I realized now our values, things that we tend to value most in our life, are a reflection of our voids. So what we perceive to be missing, we will seek to fill, because there's no vacuums in the universe. And so I felt like I didn't have a voice. But as I'm sitting there doing this exercise, that day, to give you to see like the beauty of this, that day, if I would have sent an email to my list that day, I could have 1,000 people on a webinar in a couple of hours gathered around to hear what I had to say. I was a marketer. I had a fairly big audience, right? And so my dad not being around and feeling like I didn't have a voice, that was a void. And I filled that void with what became my career. And that career made me fairly wealthy, And so my dad gave me a gift. He gave me my career. But because I couldn't see that, because I judged my dad, later on in life, I met my son when he was 10 years old. I didn't even know that I had one, right? And so I met my son when he's 10. There's a whole story behind this. I was an absentee father to my own son, the same as my dad was for me. I still didn't learn the lesson, still judged it, and I end up marrying an absentee father in the form of a business partnership, who's now not present for our child, which is the business. And I'm going through that again. And so in that moment, I realized like, I don't want to keep repeating this in a different form. And so, I want to be grateful. And so I want to see I want to see the upside to my dad not being present versus just the downside, because that's what sets us free, when we can bring the mind to balance. And so when I saw that my dad gave me the gift of my career, I broke down in tears, right? And when I look back on it, I would say like, I wouldn't change a thing. If I had it all to do over again, I would want my dad to show up in exactly the same way that he showed up. Yeah. And that exercise that day changed my relationship with my dad. It changed my relationship with my partner, and it changed my relationship with myself. Mm-hmm. And when I was going through that breakup, there was millions of dollars that were stolen. There was a whole income stream that was stolen from me, and all these different things. And I'm not saying that from the perspective of a victim. I'm saying like, if I were to break down the circumstances and the experiences of this, many people would say, I would never want to have a partner again. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, how many people get burned in a divorce and never get married again? Mm-hmm. But I don't want my experiences to become like, I don't want the external world to tell me who I am and who I ought to be. And so I wanted to make sure that I broke through these challenges to, be authentic, to remain authentic. Today, I've had 6 partnerships since then. Every one of my companies has a partner. Every one of those prosper. But that could have easily been a moment in time where I swore off partnerships altogether. And many people do.
Yeah. You tapped into 2 things that I want to reiterate, is that you wouldn't change a thing. And that's because there's a soul contract, right? So we're going very deep right now because we get each other. We understand each other. Your soul contract, you came here to live this life, to live this purpose. You picked your parents. You picked your experience before even being born. And so that's why you can peacefully and calmly say, I would not change a thing, because that was your decision. That you needed that to birth you, who you are, the experiences because it's a journey, right? It's your journey, your very specific journey. That it had to be exactly like that for that transformation, for that alignment to kick in. It was just part of every step along the way. So a lot of people cannot grasp that. They play the victim card and says, this happens, it's my fault, it's terrible, and never get out of that loop, which is what your program does, is getting them out of that loop, like every experience. And to take it a step further, like you chose your parents, you choose who you want to give birth to you, and exactly what's going to unfold, you welcome it because it's going to strengthen you. It's going to take you to that purpose, to that destination, to that place you need to go. And that's like, bam, mind blowing.
Yes. Ultimately, like that's one exercise in one of our advanced classes, right? So, and I was just in that particular one, I was like participating like a student because I'd already, done this exercise. I understood the value of it. And the reason that we do that with our clients, to your point, is because when you can see, and I'm breaking down the exercise and I'm leaving all the science and the pre-lecture that takes place prior to it out at the moment. But when you can see that, when you can take something, we know that when we take our clients through this process and when they can see this thing that was like one of the most painful experiences of their life, and they can see how it served them, how it benefited them. And they can see that to such a degree that they move past forgiveness. Forgiveness is essentially saying, now, I would agree that it's more healthy than resentment. It's still the perspective, though, that I'm right, you're wrong. I'll forgive you this time, but don't you ever do it again. Beyond that, though, is a place of gratitude. It's I see how this served me. I can see how this perfectly played out and was ultimately to my benefit, and therefore I would change nothing. Thank you for the lesson.
You alchemize it. It. It becomes a strength, a power. Yes, you're now sovereign.
Yes. Alchemize would be a perfect word for it. And the reason that we do that with our clients as part of our leadership program is because when you can see that and experience it, it becomes real. It's like in your body. That's why I break down in tears at the realization, right? When it's in your body, there's a certain level of knowing, of confidence, of clarity that like at that point, that no matter what comes your way, what can possibly stop you? Because if the most painful thing that you've experienced was also your biggest benefit, then you welcome the next challenge because you know that hidden inside of it is the seed of, the outcome, the purpose, the vision, the mission that you're on. And so when it feels like the road is most falling out from underneath us, it's really rising up to meet us. But if we don't have the wisdom to see the hidden order in the apparent chaos of life, then we live like the masses. Mm. If we have the wisdom to see the hidden order in the apparent chaos of life, we become the master of life.
And you're creating masters.
That's our mission.
All around, all around the globe. It's phenomenal. And the profoundness to what you just explained is how the subconscious is driving the adult. Again, that analogy is about the 7-year-old in the car driving you around, throwing tantrum. That's precisely what happened. But it showed up in the business decisions you made. It showed up in the partner that you had, or you kept attracting, the people that you bring into your circle, right? The type of businesses.
Exactly.
That's that subconscious. That's how powerful it is. And a lot of people minimize that power, but it's a big one. And if you can go and uproot all that, get rid of it, then you can start from a place of just fresh, but then you embody it the same way that 7-year-old, that subconscious mind is programmed in there and it's driving you. You can change the channel. You can change the tune, and then you move from that place of power that you so elegantly do and effortlessly do with the clients that you serve. And so it's been, I get it 100% and so much. Thank you for sharing it. I want to talk about your morning routine because we do have habits that we put in place to help us to be successful. Little things that we do that are non-negotiable. And I want to hear some of yours. So tell us, how do you get up, dress up, and show up?
Yeah. So for a long time, for years, I actually had more of a morning routine than I do today. I'll share with you what I mean by that in a moment. But, when I first started getting into this work, I had a lot of things that I felt like I really needed to rewire and change. And so for me, it was waking up in the morning. At the time I lived in Hawaii, here in Hawaii. So, and the beach was about a mile and a half from my mom's apartment, which kind of, when you're in Hawaii, the beach is always about a mile and a half away. So, so anyways, I would get up in the morning, I would walk down to the beach, I would sit, I would do affirmations, a short closed eye meditation.
Mhm.
And when I would do my affirmations, for clarity, like I was reading those from the place of like, this is currently happening, like this is my current reality, and I wanted to be emotionally invested in it, so it wasn't like just reading notes off of a piece of paper, but it was like, as an example, I'm a millionaire internet marketer. I'm a millionaire internet marketer. Like I would sit at the beach and do that in the morning. And I would go through a little, about 5 to 10 minute closed eye meditation just to be like present, take a notice of what was going on, for like, what were the voices that were running internally? Where was my attention going? And then I would head back home, get in front of my computer, get a quick workout in. Like I had learned about, brain derived neural factor, like breaking a sweat in the morning, to help improve cognitive function. And so those are some of my things that were like my non-negotiables in the morning before I started my day. And it was that way for 10 years, probably, something like that. These days, my morning routine usually starts actually the night before.
Yeah.
So the night before, because these days I want to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. I want to get to work immediately. We've got quite a bit going on in the business. So my morning routine actually starts the evening before. So I will do my workout in the evening when I get done with work. My meals in the evening are going to be balanced meals. So I'm not going to eat like heavy food.
Yeah.
I try to stay away from the desserts and the sweets after about 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. I try to stay away from that. That way I can, I've cut out alcohol out of my life. Aside from maybe a special occasion here and there where I'll have like a beer or a glass of wine. Like it's very rare that I'll have a drink.
Yeah.
I'll put on red light glasses or red lens glasses in the evening and watch some TV to like help stimulate the brain's own, sleep preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
I have some supplements. I get my blood work done every 90 days and we go through a supplementation program. So I have some supplements in the evening that I take that also help, melatonin. I think 3 milligrams of melatonin is in there to help stimulate sleep. And then I have an Oura ring and I track all of my sleep.
Yeah.
And I read a book a few years back called Why We Sleep. And it's what spawned this. And I realized better than a morning routine was a good night routine and making sure that I woke up fully rested. And that was going to set me up for like the best cognitive ability the next day.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I do now is my morning routine has actually become my night routine. I track my progress on my Oura ring. I can see when, I've had too much sugar in the evening, or I can see when I started doing that, that's why I quit drinking, because I could see the effect of alcohol on my sleep when I did and didn't drink. And immediately I was like, well, then why do I keep doing this? And I was able to cut it out. And so, yeah, right now, my focus for a morning routine is to wake up fully rested and, cognitively prepared to tackle the day ahead.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're not running straight to your phone the minute you open your eyes or straight to your computer. You strike me as someone who paced yourself, who doesn't rush much in life anymore. So,
yes.
Because you're present, right? There's no better time than the present and be here now. I heard that in college, and I can't believe it still stuck with me, but it resonated. Be here now. There is power in the present. There's power in being present. And I learned that being present is not just in a moment. It can actually stretch out. It's multidimensional. So if you're always present, you're always in power. You're always coming from that, making great decisions because you are present. Like you're giving people your attention and your time, and whatever you're doing, your attention and your undivided time, presence.
In the topic of presence, and I think this is an interesting distinction. Like when we talk about presence in our classes, we also talk about it's very difficult to be present if there's a part of you that's still holding on to the trauma at 7 years old. There's a part of you that's still holding on to that divorce, the part of you that's still holding on to that time that you didn't tell somebody, like you were afraid to admit the truth to somebody, important to you. Like there's all these little things, these open loops running in our mind that steal a portion of our attention, and so it's hard to be present, powerful, poised, and productive when we've got all of these unresolved things from the past. And really, when we look on our life, we are divided across a series of experiences that we haven't resolved that keep us tethered to the past.
I call it leaking energy.
Beautiful.
You're leaking energy. Yes, there is a hierarchy to it. I agree. There's you got to do that first. You got to stop leaking the energy. Stop wasting the time, the mental capacity in the mental brain, so that you can be present. Because you can't. What they say, you can't hold two opposing thoughts at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. So things like that. I agree with you 100%. To be present, you need to plug the leaks, and you have to do the work to actually, it's not just the healing, the forgiving, but just the transformation aspect that takes place.
Yes. Beautiful.
Thank you for sharing. We can talk about this all day, and I've already taken way too much of your time because this has been so
I can do this all day. Don't get me wrong. I can do this all day. I love this. And I love sharing it with somebody who gets it, like yourself.
Because we're present, right? We're present.
Yes.
We're not leaking energy, guys. This is what it looks like and sounds like. So it's been such an amazing conversation with you. I cannot thank you enough. Your presence is more than enough this morning. Go ahead and tell us, how do we connect with you? Where do we find you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm being more active. I just brought on a new social media manager. We're being more active here very shortly. We'll be more active on Instagram and YouTube again. So you can find me there just under my name. Best place to start if somebody's interested in our curriculum would be thepowercode.com. The Power Code is an assessment. It's a free assessment. Anybody can download, and you follow the assessment. It helps you get clear about what your values are. We talked about the importance of that a moment ago. So you can go through the assessment. It'll walk you through a process to help you get clear about what your values are, what your life currently demonstrates are your true values, your authentic values. There's an optional 2-hour masterclass that goes along with it, where I kind of walk you through the process and show you how to use this and then how to implement it in your life. And then at the end of that masterclass, to be fair, I show you what to do and how to do it. Or if you want us to help you do it as well, then again, we offer a double your money back guarantee. We guarantee the results. And we talk a bit about that at the end of the masterclass. So thepowercode.com is a great place to start as well.
Fantastic. Before you go, give us a quote, a phrase, something that you live by.
You'll notice these tattoos, right? And these tattoos are, I actually got these just 3 years ago. If you look closely at the tattoos, it's all pairs of opposites. So for me, it's lessons in life and the pairs of opposites. Mm-hmm. At the very top, it says, everything is love. And I want to be clear that I'm not saying that love is everything. I'm saying that everything is love. My parents divorcing was love. Mm-hmm. My partner and I splitting up was love. My Tiani and I splitting up. Tiani's my other half, my fiance. Tiani and I splitting up years ago in that story that I told you in the beginning, that was love.
That was your wake-up call.
Those were, we often tend to think that we have this fantasy, there's like the Disney version of love. Mm-hmm. They're like, if you love me, you'll never hurt me. If you love me, you wouldn't do that. But you won't find a single human being walking the face of the earth who's both loved and not been hurt. Right. Because love incorporates both. In order for us to experience love, we experience both sides of life. Mm-hmm. And when we can embrace both sides of life with equal indifference, when we can see how both serve us, we live a more loving, fulfilled, soulful life. And so everything that we experience in life, the good and the bad, the ups and the downs, the lefts and the rights, all of it is a journey back to love.
I can't touch that. You mic drop over here. Thank you so much for sharing that profound, deep thought. It really is inspiring, and it's been a delight hearing your journey and your story. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, all right, morning enthusiasts, that's it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you love the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes or Google Play. While you're at it, tell a friend about the show. Be sure to visit bestmorningroutineever.com and our Facebook group to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic free bonus content. Until next time,